Yo. So, a lot of the chronic back pain that I've dealt with over the years, I'm now realizing comes from the repressed emotion that lives inside of all of us. And growing up, I was the good kid. I, you know, my brother was kind of the louder one. He would get angry and wear his emotions. And I, from a young age, started repressing what I was feeling and didn't necessarily know it at the time. I was doing my best, going through a lot with my family, and I did have um, signs of repressed emotion being made manifest physically in my body. And of course, I did not know at the time that it was emotion stored inside of me that was causing physical pain, but I've only just discovered that in the last month. I'm 28. It's taken this long. And what I want to talk about today is the necessity for anger, the importance of it, the beauty of it. So there's a quote um, from the Bible, which has a lot of wisdom. Don't need to be religious, but it goes: "If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you." St. Thomas. There is a reservoir of rage, of sadness, of anger that lives within all of us. And it's asking to be released. And we don't know how, because there's certain emotions that we consciously repress just to get through the day. Like, you're feeling intense sadness, but you need to go to work and you put on the happy face. You're consciously aware of the emotion, yet you consciously push it aside. You repress it. Suppressed emotions are those stored in the well of our unconscious that we have no idea exist. We don't know how to pull them up. We don't even know they're there. So we might think that we are not the type of person who feels anger or sadness or has serious childhood traumas that they've not dealt with, but they live within all of us. And we all have what are called mind body um, symptoms or mind body. The mind body syndrome is TMS. And that is this philosophy that I'm learning about, and learning that my chronic back pain is actually caused by the mind body syndrome. And it was made famous by Dr. John Sarno. Um, I've read all three of his books in the last month, and I'm now reading uh, The Great Pain Deception, Understanding TMS and the Mind Body Syndrome. Stephen Ray Ozanich, who was in decades of pain, and he healed when he studied the work of Dr. John Sarno and realized that his pain was emotional. And tens of thousands of people have healed just from learning that their pain is caused from suppressed emotions. And the point of this video and what I want to talk about today is not necessarily the inner workings of TMS, but just the importance of anger and realizing that, you know, throughout my life, like I was saying, I was the good kid. I was just kind of kept quiet, repressing those emotions, never really got in trouble. I always kind of followed the rules, stepped in line, didn't want to didn't want to mess up, didn't want to be judged, didn't want to disappoint people. And these are still things I battle with today to some degree. And they're all personality traits and characteristics which really feed into TMS and make for the perfect candidate of repressed emotion. So I was the good kid. I never truly excelled in school or anything, but definitely got the job done. Got C's, B's, maybe even some A's. I just never got in trouble. I didn't want to cause problems. That's what I feared the most. And as I grew older, I even kind of remember if like my brother was acting up or something, my dad would be like, I don't know, like, look at Vinny, he's good boy. He's good, like as a joke, and like pet me. And these things that seem so obviously they're just silly or um they don't meet like they're supposed to be good things. They're jokes or the things people say offhandedly is what I'm getting to. Can often have a deep psychological impact on us. I saw myself as the good kid, the good boy, the good girl. Maybe you see yourself as that, and I'm sure countless people have been told you're supposed to be a good girl, you're supposed to be a good boy. This is what they do. They don't cause problems. They're quiet. And we get conditioned to believe this is how we're supposed to be. When in reality, to feel anger, to feel sadness, to feel rage, these are all human and beautiful and important emotions. And what's interesting about TMS is, so as I said, it's the brain using physical pain to distract us from the emotional pain. So it's using physical pain to distract us from the emotional reservoir that lives inside of us, because it believes if those emotions were to come to the surface, they would be too painful and destroy our lives. And think about anything that happens in the body physiologically. You're about to go on stage and you're sweating. You're so nervous that your hands start to sweat. That's a physiological mind body symptom. Your face flushes red when you're embarrassed. You get butterflies in your stomach. These are emotions causing physical changes in the body. And for some reason, we don't believe that that could happen on a much grander scale. And it took me hitting rock bottom until I finally began to understand that the pain is not physical, or the pain is not caused by a physical symptom or abnormality, something in my spine, my back. It's real pain. So the brain creates real pain in the body, but it's harmless. TMS is harmless. It doesn't actually hurt the body at all, but it causes very severe pain. You know, it's crazy what I'm learning about what the brain does and can do, and how we can actually reprogram it because it's plastic and train it to do exactly what we want. And we create our reality and our future through our thoughts and our emotions and programming our brain in the way that it's supposed to be. And so the brain is creating distraction, physical pain to distract from the emotional well inside of us. And I grew up thinking, this was me. I was the good kid, went to college, went to university, graduated, and the pain began from an injury when I was 21, 6 years ago. And so I thought, but what the brain does, it uses a stressful time in your life and creates the injury to make you believe that that is what's actually going on. And then we go down the rabbit hole of thinking that our herniated discs, bulging discs, you know, anything in the spine that is actually normal signs of aging are what cause the pain, when they are indeed just distractions. It's a mirage. So the anger, say over the years, 6 years, I've been very angry about this pain. I had no idea what was going on in my body. I could not understand it. I tried everything. And this is an interesting one. I had a dream last night. It was quite strange, as dreams often are. But I was like fighting this guy on YouTube that is like the SI. There's this thing in your body called the SI joint, which I thought was causing me a lot of. I thought mine was just dysfunctional. I was like, my SI joint is messed up. That's where all my pain is. Now I see it's just emotion that's stored there. But there's this guy on YouTube, like the SI joint guy, and he makes videos. I was recommended to check him out um, when I was having problems there, and I mean, I knew immediately. I'm like, I do not want anything to do with this guy. Like, his videos just annoyed me. I'm sure he's doing his best. I'm sure maybe he knows about mind body syndrome, but then that would kind of take away his business, wouldn't it? And I've heard, I've heard it all over the years. You should try this. Everybody who's in chronic pain has heard everything and they've tried everything. If you haven't had it, maybe you can't relate on that point. But if you have had chronic pain, you've been in the loop, the spiral, you have tried everything. And when people offer more suggestions, they're good natured, of course, they want to help, but it's just like another anxiety. It's another thing just to make you like wonder, maybe, I don't want to try it, but there's that doubt that maybe that is the thing to fix me. And you fly to Florida and spend $500 for 30 minutes with the SI joint dysfunctional therapist and realize that it didn't do anything. So I had a dream last night that I was like beating the shit out of this guy. And I woke up, I'm like, whoa, that's gnarly. And then I knew it meant something. It was like 4 in the morning and went back to sleep. But then I was reading The Great Pain Deception and reading about somebody's story who had a dream about Dr. John Sarno after the guy read his books and the physical therapist like having an argument about the need for physical therapy and surgery. I'm like, okay, well, I had my dream for a reason because I'm angry about all the misinformation that I've been, not misinformation necessarily, but I'm angry about just this lack of knowledge about what's really going on with this thing, chronic pain, which afflicts millions of people. And there's still no answers. And the mind body syndrome, TMS, understanding our emotions is not seen as a viable solution because it's much less concrete. It's, we have you have something you have a bulging disc. That must be the problem. And as patients, we want to believe that that is the problem because then if we could fix that, we could physically fix the body, we will fix. It took me hitting rock bottom to finally accept that there is a much deeper situation that needs to be looked at. And as Stephen Ozanich says in his book, pain must be addressed at its source, which is within the shadows of the unconscious mind. Heal the mind and the body will follow. We don't want to look in the unconscious mind into what Carl Jung, the Swiss psychoanalyst who greatly influences all of this work, called the shadow self, which are these repressed emotions that live within all of us. We don't believe we are those people who feel anger, sadness, rage, and we are. And you don't necessarily even need to change as a person to heal from just knowing that the what you're dealing with, the chronic pain, is an emotional manifestation physically. All you need to know is what's actually happening. That, oh wow, there is a reservoir, an ocean of rage inside of me. Maybe don't know exactly how to tap into it, and I can begin exploring it, but I don't need to solve anything. I just need to know that there's nothing physically wrong with my body. I'm not broken. That whenever I feel pain, it's really an emotional thing that's going on. And to know that that is how you heal. Knowledge is the first step, and then getting back to your life, resuming physical activity, living as if you don't have anything wrong with your body, because you don't. We don't. So going back to the anger thing. Whenever we feel anger, like over the years, I've been, you know, I think I just read in the book that there's over 600 shades of emotions that we feel at any given moment. It's probably more than that. We call these things sadness, anger, fear, grief, depression, anxiety, but there's so many shades of each one of those emotions. Come back. Family Mart, Family Marto, coffee, Japan, good stuff. And so I've felt all of those things, over the years. So much frustration where I can't understand how I can't heal this thing. I'm 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. And, the physical peak of my life, which is actually like early 30s, but I'm in my 20s and I have back pain. Like, what the fuck is going on? And I've heard countless times, you're too young for back pain. It's just like physical therapists just like looking at it's like, man, you're too young for back pain. And I'm just sitting there like, am I supposed to make of that? We've all heard that, if you deal with chronic pain and you're under 40, I don't know. Like I was saying earlier, the offhanded comments, they don't know the effect. We don't know the effect. I've probably done this a lot myself, that they have on people. So be careful with what you say as I'm making a YouTube video. And I felt obviously sadness. I've hit my lowest lows over the last 6 years. It's been the hardest thing I've dealt with in my entire life. Not knowing if I'll get out of this pain, not knowing what to do, not knowing if I'll feel broken forever and living my life just deteriorating more and more. I felt anger. I felt so much anger about this. Just like, fuck this. What am I supposed to do? This can't be life. This can't be how it's supposed to be. All this stuff. And now I'm understanding those emotions were there before the physical pain. The physical pain is just a way to distract from those emotions. So when that comes up, say anger comes up now, I feel the pain and anger comes up. One of John Sarno's main points, he has kind of 12 things to always keep on your mind in regards to this, is think psychological at all times, not physical. So when the pain comes up, instead of thinking like being pissed about the physical pain, because now that we realize it doesn't mean anything, think psychologically. What am I actually angry about right now? Is it something from my childhood that I haven't really delved into that I'm angry about still? Is it something about my everyday life right now that I'm angry about? Is it my in an unhappy marriage? Is it unhappy with my job? What am I actually angry about that the physical pain is trying to distract me from? If I feel sadness about the pain, then I'm in a sad state. I'm sad about something. What am I actually depressed about? I'm sad that I can't figure out this pain. I'm sad that I think I'm going to be broken forever. So what am I actually sad about in life? Because the physical pain is just a distraction from that true sadness that I'm feeling. And these emotions, they're good. They're beautiful. Maybe not good, but necessary. They make us human. And they make life what it is. We're not supposed to be cheerful and just rainbows and butterflies all the time. And this is something that I'm beginning to understand and truly enjoying because I feel like I'm becoming a more complete version of myself. This is what Carl Jung, called integrating the shadow self. We have to integrate the shadow into the fullness of our being to become who we can ultimately be. We are incomplete if we are only the good traits all the time. We need to feel the sadness. We need to feel the pain because life will always present pain. It's just physical right now, but we can handle it. And it comes from accepting, expressing, communicating, understanding that these emotions are necessary and important, and they store themselves physically unless we confront them. So, confronting that shadow side of ourselves, realizing that I have been angry all these years. I'm starting, I'm in therapy now, and just after 2 sessions, have had some serious revelations, realizing that there's still a lot of anger in me from my childhood that was repressed from being the good kid and having to kind of shut down because I didn't want to create more noise and trouble in my life. And Stephen Ozanich in this book says, in time, I was to learn that tension primarily derives from perfectionist tendencies. Perfection being a most enraging personality characteristic that many perfectionists cannot consciously observe within themselves. They are also constantly angry, but they cannot see it. We could take that and be like, no, I'm not angry all the time. Like, what are they talking about? Or, like, wow, think about it. What are the little things that piss you off all the time? And then on the surface, you feel like if you are a perfectionist, if you are conscientious and caring, which are all, it's the kind of positive personality traits that feed into this TMS, because there's 3 different um, parts of our being that Sigmund Freud characterized: the id, the ego, and the superego. And this is very important to understand the repressed emotions. The id is developed right at our birth, and that is the child, the hedonistic child in all of us. They only care about pleasure, pleasing ourselves, being fed, being cared for. They don't want to do anything for other people. It's just the kind of brat child that lives in all of us. Then there's the ego, and that is the self. The ego is how we present ourselves to the world. So the id, the child, lives in the unconscious fully. The ego lives in both the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. So we know perhaps that we don't want to go to work, but we have to. That's part of society. That's what we have to do, to put on a smiling face. That's the ego. And it's not all good all the time, but it's kind of who we are, how we see ourselves, responsible and doing what we got to do. The third part is the superego. This is the parent, and it is what is kind of in battle with the id at all times. And it is society, it is responsibility, it is perfection. It's kind of the what we believe we're supposed to be. It's the pressures of family, parents, and keeping up. It's it's the highest, moral version of ourselves. And these things are in conflict because we feel that pressure. And obviously the id just wants, just to be, have its hedonistic impulses fed. And the superego is like on the other end of the spectrum, like, you got to be perfect. You got to do all these things. You got to be achieving, high achieving, you got to move forward in society. You got to be a saint. The ego is just trying to put it all together. What am I supposed to do? All right, This is what I'm supposed to do. Responsible. Keep the train moving forward. And learning that these things, they're not always just clearly identifiable, three different parts of ourselves. They're in constant flux. They're communicating with me right now as I say these words. They're all three, having their say. They're always affecting us at all times. And realizing that these traits, these perfectionist traits, on the surface, they do look great. They're the things that move us forward. And you say, like, I'm a perfectionist. That's a good thing. I have high standards. I have a harsh inner critic. Then underneath the surface, this tension is just creating more and more repressed emotion. It's just being stored into our shadow, into the unconscious mind. And it comes up as headaches, as back pain, as knee pain, shoulder pain, stomach aches, ulcers, anything in the body is created by emotion. That's ruling out, if you have any serious illness or cancer or any bodily serious abnormalities. But for the most part, so much of what we deal with is coming from stored and repressed emotions. And we don't understand that. Realizing that, wow, yeah, I am angry about a lot of things, you know, little things. And then I tell myself, like, I've grown up and people ask, are you happy all the time? Because throughout my back pain, I've managed to keep a smile on my face and continue doing my best. And even before I knew in the last month, for the last 6 years, thinking that I had something wrong with me, I still kept my faith and kept moving forward. And maybe I even overcompensated because I was in pain. And now just realizing that it's okay to be angry. I gotta be. And that's not like getting pissed off at people in the streets. And I'm still me. I'm still happy and joyful and inspired and passionate. And I want to be a good person. But realizing that there's anger inside of me and journaling about what I'm angry about and realizing that it's okay, that there's a lot of things that I still gotta just work through and I don't need to blow up. Like I asked my therapist, like, so am I gonna need to, like, say I'm like a pipe? Do I need to just burst? Like, is that how I'm gonna get this rage outside of me or out of me? And he's like, no, like think about like a yoga pose. You don't just like burst into it to make it happen. You slowly like stretch into it a little bit here, a little bit more and more until it feels better and better and better. And that is how you get these emotions out. You kind of leak them out in positive ways. You release the tension in the valve. You let a little fire out here and a little there. And you journal about it. You talk about it. You speak your mind. If you're angry about something, that is something that I've not done over the years with my family, particularly my brother. That's where a lot of the anger comes from. And it's not like I have to like solve all these things now. It's just realizing that it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be anxious or whatever, but realize that they don't define you. They just make you human. And that is a very important thing to understand, that the shadow is a beautiful part of us, a necessary part. We want to be dangerous. We want to be able, competent, complete, because that understanding our shadow, understanding that there's a dark side to us, it's the dark side to the moon, that's what makes the bright side beautiful. That's what makes our true quality shine. That's what makes us a complete person. And man, if that's the only thing I take from this whole experience, it's very worthwhile. And then, like I said before, you don't need to solve anything to heal. And what I'm kind of getting at is it's not only with chronic pain. You don't need to have back pain for this to apply to you. I'm just, I'm fed up with the pain. I've dealt with this for 6 years, and now I still feel the sensations, but I know they're harmless, and I'm fucking sick of it. I'm sick of feeling these. I'm sick of living my life in fear and in a state of feeling like I'm broken and incomplete, and I'm not gonna deal with it anymore. This is what you actually. This is what you have to do. This is what you actually have to do to reprogram your brain. Brain's moving a little it's too early. To reprogram your brain, you have to be fed up with what you've been dealing with. And like I said, this isn't just chronic pain. If you're fed up with your condition, with where you are in life, you have to stand up to it. Stand up to the fear and say, I'm not going to take it anymore. You don't have control of me anymore. I know these pain, the sensations in my body are harmless. There is nothing wrong with me. I'm not broken. And I'm going to live my life. Whether you try to put up a little battle or not, I'm going to live. And that's a big part of it. A huge part of overcoming this is facing those fears, getting back to living, and making the brain realize that the distractions are not working. That if you are thinking psychologically, asking yourself, what am I actually angry about right now? Yeah, life is a bit stressful. That did happen. Okay, that makes sense. Then the brain's ploy is not working and the pain dissipates. But you got to decide for yourself when enough is enough. And it is for me. I just don't give a shit anymore. Like, I know what this is. And for the last month, I've been 95% in, and then there's been a 5% doubt that, oh, well, maybe I am the abnormality, even though John Sarno in his books, he's seen tens of thousands of people exactly like me. Maybe it is structurally for me, like just because I haven't had the actual diagnosis by a mind body professional. I'm like, there's that lingering doubt. But then I'm using the app Curable to guide me in this whole process. And it's all based on mind body science and practices. And the one I was doing yesterday, a brain training exercise, is to create a contract with yourself about your health anxieties. Write down everything you fear regarding your health. And I wrote down, I fear that maybe it isn't TMS for me. Maybe there actually is something wrong with my spine, even though I have MRIs they show a herniated disc and a little bit of bone fissure. And it's clearly stated in all of John Sarno's books and this one as well. That means nothing. And there's much documentation that bulging discs and herniations do not mean pain. They're natural as we get older. People start showing signs of disc degeneration, most people in their early 20s. And it's just a part of our bodies. They're not supposed to cause pain, but the brain uses them as a distraction because if we have back pain, if you get an MRI, if you have a bulging disc, that must be the culprit. But it is not. So realizing that I am not an abnormality, I'm not the 1% who actually does have a structural problem that needs to be surgically, performed on, or that this is TMS. So I wrote down, made a contract with myself. I have this fear. This day forward, I will no longer fear that this is truly an abnormality, that I will question and use my precious energy worrying if this is indeed TMS. I will use all of my energy focusing on the psychological and overcoming this, which is TMS. Signed it, dated. From this day forward, I'm not going to worry about it anymore. I know what this is. There's so many so many clear signs, like just realizing everything from childhood, realizing things like this, that I am actually angry about a good amount of things, and that's okay. It's beautiful. It makes me, makes us human. Starting to understand that, realizing that my life has been pretty stressful the last 10 years as I've graduated college and trying to figure out my path and what we're supposed to do with our lives and all these things. It's stressful transitioning from the kid I was into my own identity and the man I want to be. And that took me kind of leaving my home country, home city, my family, moving across the world because something inside of me needed to forge my own identity. And I'm just now in the process of understanding why. What is that? What's actually at the root of that? And so, all this being said, understanding is different than trying to solve the thing. I now understand what's going on, but I don't need to necessarily solve everything about my childhood. All that needs to happen now is just continue exploring, to relax into it. This must be a calm process. And you can understand that you are angry about a lot of things, but still be calm, still be relaxed, still enjoy the process. It's been a beautiful morning, and I had that weird, crazy dream, and then other stuff, and I journaled, did meditation, and just it feels like I unlocked something, realizing that I'm angry about this last 6 years of seeing countless fucking professionals, and just like I'm like, I knew deep inside of me, I'm like, this is not gonna solve my chronic pain. Chiropractors, acupuncture, physical therapists, I've seen it all. And we have inner wisdom that sometimes we just don't understand. But even as kids, we know when something's not right. Growing up, I mean, it's our gut, it's our instincts. It's like, we got to trust that. It's telling us something, it's steering us in a direction. And I've just known that none of this is going to do it. None of this is going to solve what needs to be solved inside of me. My whole body, my emotional self needs to let go and unclench. And I love what Stephen Ozenich says just about this process, about kind of understanding versus solving. He says, I've been asked, won't the cause remain if it is not dealt with? Not necessarily. There's another healing panacea called letting go. Letting go of the past through forgiveness and understanding releases the grip of pent up rage, past and present. So, regarding finding that panacea, ick emotion, just understand that unwanted emotions are present, have a general idea of how one got to this point, and confidently begin to allow the healing process to take place. Flow with confidence. Having said this, it may be the case that a person has a hidden whopper of an emotional experience that they may need to get a handle on, and it takes two hands to handle a whopper. A deep relationship wound that will not heal, that cannot be let go, needs to be heard, and so healing may only come through the revelations of insight or psychotherapy. Checking and rechecking process maintains focus on the body, which is the point of the existence of the pain, and so counterproductive. So again, relax, let go, stop trying so hard. People recover faster when not under pressure to do so. It really, it's a journey of exploration, of self-discovery. The more that I realize this isn't, there's no race here. There's nothing, there's not a finish line of being cured or healed that I have to cross and in a certain time frame. This is a journey of a lifetime that begins now. one of self-discovery and just understanding. And the more I can relax into that process and allow it to happen as it's meant to, and stay curious and open to whatever the universe puts in my way, the quicker the healing will be, and the more enjoyable this will be. Because every day when I'm doing my meditation and I'm envisioning my future self, who I know I could be and who I will be and who I want to be, at the end, you kind of say goodbye to that vision. You let it be, you let it go into the universe to then come into your life in the way that it's meant to. And I come back into my present self and I look around and I'm like, wow, I'm here right now. I'm in the thick of this process. In 20 years, I'll look back and my pain will be nothing but a memory. And maybe I'll miss this stage. I'll miss being a month in to the spiritual odyssey. And like, wow, that would be cool to go back to that time and just feel again what I was feeling when I was on the cusp of the greatest change in my entire life. When I healed this thing that I thought was unhealable for so long, just by understanding myself. I wasn't over the barrier yet. I hadn't crossed the threshold. And I was right there. And what an exciting place that is to be. I come back into this present state, and here I am, on the cusp, the greatest transformation of my life. It's like I'm a Pokemon evolving to the next stage. And just to cherish this, cherish every step of this healing journey. Let go of shoulds or oughts, the things that have to happen now. Detach from the outcome. Flow with confidence. Enjoy it. Cherish it. Wherever you are. I hope that you could apply this mentality to what you're going through now, what you're dealing with, whatever stage you're in. If there's something beautiful, something to learn, something to glean from each season of life. None is really more important than the other. There's something to learn from each. All right. I think I've gotten out what I need to. The emotions, the shadow self, they're natural, they're healthy, they're needed. Explore them, but you don't need an answer. It's liberating to live that way, to detach, to realize that you are okay, no matter what happens. Much love.